What's the hottest thing someone did that turned you on without them actually meaning to? My first boyfriend wore glasses, and before we would get intimate he would take them off. I didn't realize the Pavlov effect it had on me until about a year later. One of the guys I worked with, whenever he got frustrated he would take his glasses off and rub his eyes. I always wanted to have a fling with him but never did because otherwise I wasn't really that into him and not a fling type person. But the taking off glasses and rubbing his eyes made my mind go right in the gutter. 8. So I never felt anything towards this girl or anything, we just ran in the same friend group. We were all playing Monopoly and I started getting a really bad migraine, so I was letting her handle the math portion cause I couldn't think. She started playing with my hair while I was laying on the floor next to the game board with her beside me, which I really love when people play with my hair. When she suddenly leaned over me to grab the dice and her cleavage pressed on my back, I felt her get kinda tense. I did too, and I think we both realized the situation was strange. She didn't stay like that long before she sat back up and proceeded to continue messing with my hair. Was definitely a turn on though. PS. We totally won that game, LOL. Parallel parked my car flawlessly. I like when they have to put their hand on back of your seat to turn around. Something about it is obviously innocent, but they're just in your space, usually flexing a bit, looking concentrated. We were moving offices at work and a co-worker of mine lifted a heavy box with one hand. Something about how he was dressed formally but doing something so physical so easily really woke something primal in me. It was like a 2-second move he probably didn't even think about, but it stuck with me. Heart. There's a certain level of tone bass a man can produce with his voice that drives me ducking nuts. Discovered it by accident one day when a buddy snuck up behind me and whispered something in my ear with it. Shivers down my spine, shaky legs, and a waterfall ready to blow. I've only met maybe 1 or 2 others who can do it, with a recent one being his normal talking voice. Boy, that makes it hard working around consistently at work. Last summer, I baked some sugar cookies and made a strawberry reduction to drizzle on them. My friend tasted one while they were still really warm and she apparently loved them. She sort of dipped downward just a bit and let out this little moan. We made eye contact right as it happened and I almost lost it for a second. The only thing that mattered in the world was eliciting that facial expression and sound from her again. Thankfully, I snapped out of it and just laughed, but I found myself thinking about that moment for weeks afterward. I walked in on my wife changing clothes, wearing nothing but an oversized white t-shirt without pants. She had no idea. Our desks were really close at my school, and this girl behind me would put her head down sometimes. Whenever she did this she would end up breathing right on my back and it was oddly nice. My friend's kid walked right up to my husband and asked him if he wanted to play in the playground. So he did. A big 6'2" man playing with a kid and they're playing make-believe games. Realized that he would be an amazing father. Big turn on. I was a bar manager at the time. A short female employee was kneeling on the ground filling a cooler. As I walked by she asked me a question. I will never forget her big eyes looking up at me roughly dong height. She was my type 2, which made it worse. It has never happened since, but there was this guy who walked in a way that made me weak in the knees. I can't quite describe it, but he had a swing to his hips and a very good posture, I suppose. Edit. I'm told this is what cowboys walk like, so that's that, I suppose. There's this incredibly smart and attractive Afrikaans girl in my crappy little podunk town. I'm not sure how or why she's here, but we have had some seriously great conversation and a shared sense of humor. Last Halloween I went out and she was the only person dressed up, wearing US Navy whites she had found at a thrift shop. We talked for a bit and then she attempted to get the costume off in public. She was wearing some regular clothes underneath. She had trouble with the belt and asked me to help take it off. After failing to do so in a still seated, prim and proper way that hopefully didn't make me look like a pervert in front of 30 people, she said, "You'll have to get down on your knees or something, or hey, I'll get on this chair," and proceeds to kneel on a chair in front of me while I'm trying to take her belt off. She adamantly denies that was flirting. Messy hair. The type of hair of when a girl is about to go to bed or is simply getting comfortable. Pair that with an oversized t-shirt and simply a casual attitude. I don't know why, but it just gets me. When my boyfriend put on glasses after wearing contacts for almost 2 years, my knees went weak. He had no idea what he had done, but he looked so stunning. Also, that little eyebrow raise and the slight smirk some guys can do when you're messing around with them. It gets me every time. I got a suit fitted recently and the girl who did the fitting was so soft spoken, delicate and utterly feminine in her actions, movements and even tone of voice that I thought I was about to go full primal man and just take her then and there. She glided around me in that very girly way and was humming to herself as she worked. It took about 10 to 15 minutes but for her to complete the measurements, but it was over too soon in my mind. Her hair smelled amazing and her touch was delicate and soft. She got in quite close with the measurements and was whispering the measurements under her breath as she noted them and breathing so softly near my ears. It took everything not to lean in for a kiss or try take her hand. Had to get seriously zen to prevent an inappropriate boner. I was doing an escape room puzzle with some friends and an ex. The ex and I had never had much sexual chemistry and quickly decided we were better off just as really good friends. In the escape room, though, we got to a puzzle that had a ton of math. My friends were getting out the calculator we'd been given and she spits out the answer by doing mental math. Before they can even type it in, she's in STEM. Goddamn. I wanted to pin her against the wall in that moment. It was such a turn on. Was mountain biking with a group of people and the girl ahead of me kept getting poked in the butt by her bike seat. Needless to say, I was driven. On a first date, talking about everything but the food, we were slowly eating for an hour and a half, looking at each other jabber back and forth, and he has his fork, nothing on it but the crumbs of his meal, mid-air ready to put in his mouth. It seemed like everything slowed down when his fork reached his lips. I wanted to replace that fork with myself and eventually I did. I've seen many people lick their fork clean this way and it has never affected me till then. My then boyfriend was trying to talk to his sister but I was tickling him, so in order to continue the conversation he pinned my wrists above my head and held me down like I was weaker than a piece of paper. I'm pretty strong and big, so this shocked me and he thought I was faking being weak to make him feel better, but I genuinely couldn't move. It should be noted that I trusted him explicitly, and even when he started doing it on purpose it was never with violence or even roughness, just strength. When they put on their glasses, or when they take off their glasses, or when they adjust their glasses. Basically, glasses. If they're on your face and they suit you, I'm all types of flustered when you do just about anything with them. This is a lame unhealthy response, but I'm an alcoholic in recovery. My ex-partner rarely drank alcohol, but whenever we were out and she'd been drinking vodka, the smell of her breath made me diamonds ducked up, but not a surprising connection the brain would make, I suppose. I was with a female friend at her house and we couldn't be bothered going out, so we just watched some Rick and Morty on her laptop. We were both just lying there and she suddenly shifted a little, revealing a bit of cleavage. We were both just friends, but I had to admit it did catch me off guard. She was talking and I wasn't looking at her and she got frustrated and just grabbed my chin and made me look at her. I literally melted just putty in her hands, and honestly if we hadn't been in the middle of our econ class I probs would have let her duck me right there. One of my male friends caught me when I slipped off of a rock and lifted me to solid ground with an arm on my waist, just being a good friend. But oh dear lord, I felt like an anime girl for a second there. He asked if he could help carry my bicycle up the stairs. I said yes. He just made it look so effortless. I carry my bike up those stairs all the time and it's really awkward and difficult every time. Also, who puts a bike room at the top of the stairs? Swear to God, this is the stupidest thing ever. But there was one time a girl I knew was making fun of people that couldn't wink. A couple seconds later she winks with both her eyes and it's like something switched on in me. I started noticing her more and more and I discovered she has the most beautiful eyes you have ever seen. Her messy curly chocolate hair, the way she smiles and laughs. I have had crushes on girls in the past, but nothing like this. I can only describe it as falling in love, but it can't be. Needless to say, I have been talking to her for a bit and I am just about to ask her out. But god man, sometimes I could just get lost in those green eyes. The cutest guy in my drama department one time gave me a piggyback ride and ran around. Why is not important. and after he set me down I could already feel the bruises forming on my legs. I bruise easily. I jokingly said, well, now I'll have to explain some weird bruises to my parents. Someone else commented they might think they're hickeys. Without warning, the cute guy pulls me closer to him, like against his chest, and pretends to make out with me, like making exaggerated tongue motions and moans, laughing right after. The rest of the day was an interesting one to keep some inappropriate feelings buried.